So, I went to see Spider-Man Brand New Day for the second time, and my opinion of the film hasn't changed. I still think it's a fantastic Spider-Man movie. Of course, on second viewing, you do pick up on things that you didn't catch the first time around, or you find issues you didn't see before. But now, before I get into that, this film is going to be by far and away the biggest film of the year at the box office. And Box Office Mojo is currently showing just the Friday domestic earnings thus far, $168 million. And I believe that includes Thursday. But we still don't have Saturday, and obviously I'm making this video on Sunday, so we'll know everything tomorrow, Monday, in terms of opening weekend, both domestically and internationally. But early indications put this film in basically Avengers Endgame territory, or near enough. So that is colossal. Now, when I went to see this film the second time, this is where I'm going to sound like an old man shaking his fist at clouds. But I went to a cinema that I'd never been to before. And I just want to vent here for a little bit, if you don't mind. It is my channel and all. But firstly, the cinema was, I would describe it as tired. The facilities were generally looking a bit worse for wear. You know, dingy foyer, awful bathrooms, that sort of thing. But what matters, of course, is the screen. And as is becoming a common occurrence and a real bugbear of mine, even in some high-end theaters, not just lower-end ones like the one I went to yesterday, is that they often run the projector lamps below their optimal brightness in order to preserve the life of the equipment and thus reduce costs. Now, 14-foot Lamberts is the standard baseline for 2D cinema screen brightness. There's no way they were projecting at that luminance at that screening yesterday. The image was just too dark. So that's kind of a dead giveaway, which is so frustrating. Secondly, the sound was too low and it felt poorly mixed. So dialogue could be missed over the sound of people, ruffling through bags of snacks or popcorn or whatever. And these issues by themselves are frustratingly all too common in some cinemas these days. But what's worse, what's so much worse, what really affected my enjoyment of the film was the fact that the cinema had allowed a family with very small children into the screening. Now, the film is PG-13. That's 13 years old with parents, minimum. But instead, the cinema decided not to bother enforcing this, and they allowed children between the ages of, I would say, no more than 3 to 7 into the theater, little kids. And the film is just not suitable for those ages. There's a bit of swearing. Also, the plot is too complex for them. This isn't a kid's cartoon of Spider-Man. The parents weren't able to control them. They made so much noise. One of them even said at one point, "I don't even like Spider-Man." He wanted to leave. One of the other kids was playing games on a smartphone almost the entire time, as if he was just sitting at home on his couch. The parents just didn't seem to care about their kid's behavior or how it affects anyone around them trying to watch the film, who paid the same good money they did. It was just non-stop distracting, talking, crying, you name it. It's not the children's fault. It's the fault of the cinema for allowing them into the theater, and for the parents for not taking a hint and just leaving, And it's become one of the reasons I don't go to the cinema all that often these days. There was a time when I was a kid where standards were actually enforced on this sort of thing. There was always a staff member on hand, walking up and down the aisle on a regular basis, making sure everything was okay. And if there was any hassle, people were warned. People were warned, and in some cases removed. And I can't remember the last time I've seen anything like that at a cinema in Ireland. And everyone is just sort of afraid of creating a scene or having any kind of conflict now. So they're very conflict avoidant, that they just allow appalling behavior like this. And I'm sure many of you are probably typing right now similar experiences you've had in cinemas. And, obviously you see it on things like public transport or restaurants, you name it. But look, in this instance, they should have been told to leave and just given a refund. But to be fair, it was a little bit too late at that point, because the cinema would have to admit fault in allowing them into the theater in the first place. And I think some people feel so entitled that if they were asked to leave, that they would just create a scene. Even if the film had been stopped and the lights come up, in order to say, look, we're not continuing the film until you leave, sort of thing, some people just dig in their heels and they don't leave. And they create a scene in public because so many people have main character syndrome anyway. Thanks, social media. And it's just a headache. And a lot of businesses want to avoid that. So as a result, people go along to get along and bad behavior is permitted. And there's a good reason why cinemas don't have the staff on hand in order to enforce this, like security and ushers. They're rarely seen because of competition from on-demand streaming. It's meant that cinemas have to cut costs somewhere, and so they have to reduce staff numbers. So rather than proactively dealing with disruptive behavior as it's happening, they wait for someone to complain online after the movie ends, which by that stage is too late. So apologies for that little rant, but I wanted to say that. I've wanted to say it for a while, but yesterday that was it. I said I'm gonna talk about this. So there you go. Now, without doubt, Brand New Day has its issues. There are a few superfluous characters in there. One of those is a female police detective who Peter speaks to on the phone. And she really provides very little value, I think. And I feel as though she could have been entirely omitted without anything really being lost, anything important anyway. And the same goes for Yelena Belova, who provides some exposition, but it's exposition that could easily have been given to someone else or that Peter could have picked up just, looking on his computer or something. And as I said in my review, she really has regressed to her superficial comedy relief mode from before Thunderbolts. And her inclusion just feels added in later, as if she wasn't originally supposed to be in the movie. That's kind of the vibe that I got. Maybe she wasn't in the original script or something, I don't know. I'd also point out that the humor in this film doesn't really work that well. Now, I'm glad that the film doesn't have the annoying Marvel quippy humor, We've seen lots of that kind of annoying humor in lots of MCU films. But the jokes in this film, I don't think they really work all that often. But that's fine. I do prefer the film to be more serious anyway. And it's the strong character moments that really make you smile. But Jean Grey, she really doesn't get any kind of redemption arc or experience any kind of punishment for what she did throughout the film. People died because of her. As Peter told her when she inhabited MJ, what she did in that moment on the rooftop was unforgivable. And she tried to kill MJ, of course. So Jean Grey was trying to find out what happened to her sister at Damage Control. But that's just not a reason for her to become a cold, murderous psycho and take it out on the people of New York. If anything, what was needed was some line in there that explained how her powers had maybe influenced or compromised her mind in some way or inhibited her moral judgment. That could have really helped. And also, when she's in Peter's mind and she's sitting on the bed with Aunt May, and then Peter comes in and he talks to her, she needed a line in there acknowledging, that she's done wrong. Like, I've done things, I've hurt people, I've killed. We needed that kind of pathos. We needed that kind of payoff. And she needed to be taken off to some kind of facility in the end. Instead, she just hops on a bus and leaves. And it is a poor ending for her arc, I will say that. Now, to be fair, she did use her powers to try to save Peter. And it's implied that maybe she did save him, although to what degree her powers helped him, I'm not sure, but I guess she did save his life. So also there's a throwaway line about how the main bad guy behind Damage Control, Metzger, he just conveniently disappears. He's gone. And no one knows how he escaped. So you're left with a conclusion where neither he nor Jean Grey face the consequences of their actions. So they're not brought to justice, basically. So on another note, I had no problems with the ending of No Way Home being the final time that we would see MJ and Ned. And I think this film really should have moved on from both of them. Bringing them back wasn't necessary, although it does still work because it gives Peter something personal to deal with. I really liked the ending where Peter does the handshake with Ned and then Ned somehow remembers it. Maybe it's like muscle memory. He may not remember Peter completely, or maybe he does, we don't know. But maybe he just remembers that they had a connection, that they were friends. And maybe that's enough. But the heartfelt scene between MJ and Peter after she reads the letter, Zendaya and Tom Holland's real life chemistry really shines through. And Tom brilliantly conveys the crushing emotional weight of hearing how she doesn't remember him at all. Ultimately, I'm glad they didn't just give MJ her memories back and then get her and Peter back together. I'm glad they went for a more mature, more difficult road for Peter to take and for him to have to live with the consequences of his actions from No Way Home. And I think that story arc is the reason why I'm still glad that MJ and Ned are in the film on balance, even though their inclusion wasn't entirely necessary. Overall, Spider-Man Brand New Day is a good time, even if some of you think I'm crazy. But hey, and I have to... a lot of my staunchest critics, they come at me asking, is there anything you like? And sure enough, when I do praise a movie, I get guff for liking something. But I can't win. I just can't win. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've seen Spider-Man Brand New Day, I would love to read your comments. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.